Hello, I'm Tim Gordon, and welcome to Straight Talk. In focus today, House Bill 4134, or the 1.25% for wildlife bill, now making its way through the legislature in Salem. The bill would raise Oregon's transient lodging tax to fund wildlife and conservation. Last month, we talked with advocates of the bill who told us Oregon desperately needs dedicated funding to protect the more than 300 species at risk, and that investing in Oregon's natural beauty also supports tourism. But the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association is pushing back, warning this tax hike would hurt an industry still recovering. And joining us today, the president and CEO of the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, Jason Brandt, joined the association in 2015. Prior to that, he served as the CEO of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. And Jason, thanks so much for being with us here on Straight Talk today.
Yeah, great to be here, Tim.
You bet. And you know, it's a critical time right now because as of this taping, which is early Wednesday afternoon, this House bill, 4134, passed through the House. It's out of the Senate committees, and now it's on the floor, getting a third reading and an expected vote today. What do you think will happen?
I think it's possible that it will pass 18 to 12, which is the exact amount of votes they would need to send it to the governor's desk for consideration. So we're watching it very closely. Our team is in the Capitol every day and doing everything we possibly can to share the facts of the reality facing Oregon's economy before we increase taxes yet again.
Well, proponents of this legislation call it a bipartisan effort to protect and help wildlife and habitats in Oregon by raising the statewide lodging tax by 1.25%. And they claim it has broad support in the state. The Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association obviously does not support it. Tell us why. Tell us more.
Yeah, no surprise that there's broad-based support, and let me explain why. I mean, the history of this tax is one of Oregon's brightest success stories. We've had it now for 23 years, so it passed in the 2003 Oregon legislative sessions, known as the Oregon Tourism Investment Proposal. And at that time, we created the Oregon Tourism Commission, a bipartisan effort to create a sales tax on ourselves as lodging operators to fully fund Travel Oregon and bring our identity and our brand to domestic and international audiences. So in the last 23 years, we've over doubled visitor spending, we've nearly tripled state and local tax revenue, and we've created 35,000 direct jobs. So it's no surprise to us that everyone else out there that hasn't had access to this money now wants in. They want to piggyback on that success story for all these other things that may have merit, may be important to all of us as Oregonians, but we question the vehicle that's being used to fund those new services for all these new state agencies.
And visitors and tourism is a really big part of Oregon's economy, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Every dollar we spend that we send out provides an incredible return on investment for Oregonians as a whole, for the workers in our hotels and our restaurants, for the broader retail industry. Every time we send that dollar out, we're working to create a multiplier effect that pays dividends back to the state. So that has been our focus for 23 years, and rightly so. We have questions about what happens if we start opening up this dedicated economic development revenue stream for all these new state agencies that aren't doing that same function. They're not sending that dollar out to create a multiplier effect of dollars back.
Hey, well, this debate is a pretty hot one in Salem for sure, and you and others on the business side, the Portland Metro Chamber in particular, are crying foul over some of the information released by the Oregon Conservation Network, a group of a lot of different agents or nonprofits, I think, claiming it's misleading, that information, some of it at least. What specifically is the problem there?
Yeah, the hats off to the Portland Metro Chamber for really digging in. They have a multi-page rebuttal to a 2-page document that was created by the Oregon Conservation Network. But we have serious concerns about misinformation that has really cast, I think, a lot of maybe unjust confidence in the rationale for passing this tax because frankly, the document includes a lot of information about other state taxes. We have our suspicions about AI being used to create the document. Any legislator that actually clicks on the sources and the links associated with the Oregon Conservation Network document would not find the information backed up that the document is portraying to be the truth about our industry. So it's, I think, a great opportunity for investigative journalism, and to date, they have not responded to current media outreach asking why there was so much misinformation in the documents that they provided to legislators. So I have some concerns about just the good governance protocol and making sure that the information our legislators have is fact-checked and accurate before they're making these massive decisions for all of us as Oregonians.
Do you think it's affected the debate over this?
Absolutely. Anyone that's not in our industry and doesn't have a command of the issues or the reality of the headwinds facing Oregon's tourism industry would look at a document like this and say, oh, 1.25%, that's no big deal. That's a negligible increase. The reality is this nearly doubles our statewide lodging tax in this state. And the last thing we need are media headlines across the country and maybe even in the nation saying Oregon's nearly doubling its statewide lodging tax. That's not exactly the signal we want to send as we continue to recover here in the state of Oregon.
Sure. Let's talk about where it stands right now. The current statewide lodging tax is 1.5%. That's the statewide tax, which is one of the lowest in the country. Some would argue it is the lowest if you take into account sales taxes in other states. But of the 48 states that collect a lodging tax like this, it is one of the very lowest. Why do you think it will push visitors away?
And there's a case in point on some of the misinformation. So actually 18 states don't even have a statewide lodging tax. So these are the types of facts that I think we need to equip our legislators with, and we hope the governor takes the opportunity to look very closely at this before signing any legislation, given the extent of the misinformation that has been really involved in the legislative process to date.
Okay. What is the breakdown on who pays this lodging tax that currently raises, I believe, $43 million annually? We think of tourists coming in from out of state, but it's a bigger picture than that.
Yeah, so $38 million tax increase if this were to pass. So to your point, about $44 million in the current system. All of that money goes to fund Travel Oregon and the work of the Oregon Tourism Commission to send those dollars out of our state to create those multiplier effects. So this 1.25% increase is better defined as a $38 million tax hike. 11 million of that 38 million would be paid by all of us as Oregonians traveling within our state. So our concerns have very little to do with folks like yourself and I that travel with our family to enjoy the amazing things that Oregon has to offer, enjoy our wildlife, enjoy all the other things that exist in this state. It has more to do with conference travel, business to business travel. Mm-hmm. All of those dollars that we may lose out on once we increase this rate, given how competitive it is locating conferences across the country.
Can you also talk about the fact that there are local lodging taxes as well that add on to the state lodging tax?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're sitting here talking about a 1.25% increase, but it's important to understand that Portland as a whole stands at 16%. That's the total tax you pay right now. So we would be going from 16 to 17.25% to stay here in Portland or locate your conference here in Portland. So you imagine if you're in the business of being a meeting planner and you're trying to decide where you want to locate your conference, well, 16 to 17.25% in this fiercely competitive market moves Portland to the second most expensive place in the entire West Coast to locate a conference. Not exactly the message we want to be saying when we're trying to help our small businesses recover in this state.
Okay. Although the statewide lodging tax has not been used this way before, proponents say that it really does make sense because protecting our environment, our natural areas, which are a big draw for visitors, is really affecting tourism and is important and connected in that way.
Yeah, natural resources are a draw. There are many reasons people travel to Oregon or travel throughout Oregon as citizens themselves to this great state. No doubt about it, that's for sure. But when it comes to why this vehicle was set up, its specific laser-like focus to create that brand and identity, once we open this door to 5 new state agencies, we will never be able to shut it again. And it's not like natural resources aren't funded currently. There's many revenue streams that are in place for other state agencies. They've just had to go to the general fund for the state of Oregon to get those resources and have them allocated. So we're basically creating a mini general fund through the statewide lodging tax, if you want to put it that way, by allowing 5 new agencies to piggyback on the resource that has been meant for Travel Oregon.
And my last question was going to be, where do you think the money should come from? But it sounds like you're saying it's already there.
Well, the interesting thing in this whole conversation that I am just befuddled by is that as we move through the legislative process, the general fund will have an ending balance of $200 million. $200 million, and this is a $38 million tax hike. So why, if we care about our natural resources, wouldn't we prioritize that with the ending fund balance available in the general fund as it's always been funded? We can help our farmers and our ranchers. We can help with these natural resource investments. Plus, the state has over $3 billion in reserve funding for their general fund.
All right. Well, we got to leave it there. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Jason Brandt, leader of the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. And we'll see where this goes soon with a vote.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tim.
Thanks, Jason.